Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. Today I wanna have a quick and short rant. I thought the best way to do this is via making a YouTube video perhaps instead of a community post. Please follow my community post on YouTube where I make daily briefings on the Ukrainian heavy weapon losses and where I also make statistics on how much heavy weapons they have lost in total percentages of the military and so on. Well, anyway, now let's get straight into the video. So, today, Liman, which is located over here, which is also pretty much the one a very important town in the Donbas was captured by the Ukrainian military. I'm actually not quite sure how much Ukraine has advanced. By now, I have seen some reports say they have also taken Zarechnoye and Torskove and so on. Around the street, around those three, around those two towns here. Allegedly, they have captured them as well. Um, but yeah, anyway, how could this have happened? Russia already abandoned Izium. Why did Russia now also lose Liman? How is Ukraine doing all those gains? Well, firstly, I want to say that people should not be panicking, right? There are a lot of people now saying, "Oh my God, Russia is losing the war. Oh my God, Russia, is doing terrible in the war." And even a lot of pro-Russian Telegram channels are saying this stuff and so on. But this is I think this is looking at this at a very on a very superficial level. I actually do think that abandoning Izium was a big mistake. That was perhaps the worst move done by Russia so far this entire war. Um, but Liman, I don't think that the Ukrainians taking it over really is that bad. Why? Well, firstly, what I wanna say is that I think that Russia hasn't been mo isn't launching a large scale offensive for months because Putin wants to avoid the destruction caused by large scale offensives. Mariupol is pretty much the nearly perfect example of this, right? Mariupol was completely devastated, and I think that Putin, after seeing this devastation, didn't want to continue it. So fighting was reduced from a large scale to a small scale one, and now Russia's goal is actually to just deprive Ukraine of heavy weapons, right? This is what Russia is doing now, and when Ukraine will run out of heavy weapons, it's over. They can't fight. They can't fight anymore, right? Because you can't fight a 21st century war without heavy weapons, right? Russia will basically just peacefully roll in tanks into Lviv and Kiev as soon as they run out, right? And you could perhaps say that Ukrainian soldiers will keep fighting. Well, no, they will get surrounded by Russian tanks and by Russian heavy weapons, and they will be forced to give up. And those which won will be pretty much just well massacred essentially. But those I think that this will be those are less than 1% of the Ukrainian army. Those are pretty much only the fanatics, most of which are just the neo-Nazis, right? And Yeah, well, back to the point. Well, today, I think that Ukraine actually, um, Ukraine has 433 heavy weapons left. Around that around that number, they had 487 24 hours ago. And what I think happened is that Ukraine moved around 300 around 300 to 400. Most likely it's around 300, not 400. Most likely they moved in 300 heavy weapons into Liman, which obviously, by looking at the numbers here, right, are by far just mostly tanks and other armed combat vehicles. They lost two multiple launch rocket systems in the last 24 hours, and one aircraft, I think, as well as one one artillery, right? This and the other 50 heavy weapons that were lost by Ukraine in the last 24 hours were basically just um, tanks and other armed combat vehicles, right? They are just sending in the tanks and the armed combat vehicles mostly on the field now because they don't really have any other heavy weapons left, with the exception of nine artillery and mortars, seven multiple launch rocket systems, and nine helicopters. They are pretty much out of UAVs and out of aircrafts. They might have received some more aircrafts recently, but I'd have to. I get the data on what NATO sends them every Monday, so I'm not quite sure what Biden's recent $1.1 billion help package um, for Ukraine entailed heavy weapons wise, but it definitely included aircrafts, I think. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, and basically because the Ukraine essentially committed most of the heavy weapons to Liman, they managed to capture it, right? If you send in basically almost everything you have, I mean, yeah, you're gonna take the town, and this is what happened in well, this is not the only reason why this happened, but to a large extent, this is also why Ukraine managed to take back Izium and the Kharkiv Oblast, right? But it's not the sole and only reason. And they also send in they also send in um around 400, maybe even more, 400 heavy weapons into Kherson, right? In their Kherson offensive, right? They they sorry, they lost 414 heavy weapons in the first week of their Kherson offensive, simply because they sent well, I mean, they sent a quarter of the heavy weapons in, right, or around 400 to Kherson, and then the end result was them losing all that because Russia was just could just destroy them one by one then, and could encircle all those heavy weapons, right? And that was a complete disaster for Ukraine. A lot of people call Ukraine's Kherson offensive a success and great and whatever. No, in reality, it was a complete failure. Ukraine had 1,300 heavy weapons prior to that, and then they just lost 414 heavy weapons in 1 week. Like, and at what cost did they lose so much heavy weapons? At the cost of capturing a few towns and villages, only for the Kherson front to become stale again, yet again, shortly after. And I think actually, this is they're playing a really dangerous game right now, which they shouldn't be playing, because if they keep doing those completely nonsensical offensives like in Kherson and Zaporizhia and Liman, they'll just keep depriving themselves of their last remaining heavy weapons, and their their and will just keep massacring their heavy weapons, right? You know, and you know, and just so you know, you're probably not so familiar with this, but basically, on average, they lose 100 heavy weapons, 100 heavy weapons weekly. Today, on the other hand, they lost basically half of that in one day, 54 heavy weapons. On average, in Kherson, during their Kherson offensive, in the first week of that, they lost around 59 heavy weapons daily, right, in that week. So it's basically almost on the same level as their disastrous Harrison offensive. Now, yeah, and they're running out of their heavy weapons with those offensives, and I think it's good. It's good that they did this Liman offensive. Maybe they captured a small town like that, but yeah, it's just accelerating the end of the war faster with the amount of reinforcements that they send, with the amount of heavy weapons that they send. Well, one could then argue, well, Comrade King, what about NATO? NATO will just keep refueling the Ukrainian war machine. No, that's not gonna hold on for much longer either. Um, I read an article. I'll likely put it in the description down below, or in the pinned comment of the comment section, where it was pretty much said that I think it was around 3 or 4 weeks ago, basically in early September, the U.S. Only had $6 billion worth of military aid left for Ukraine. That is weapons and yeah, stuff like that, right? And since then, the U.S. has actually sent in and then a 600 million military aid package, a 675 million aid package, and then another 1.1 billion dollar. Yeah, those are all in dollars. A 1.1 billion dollar military help package this week. Right. And in total, basically they only have around what am I no they have around 3.625 billion dollars worth of weapons left for Ukraine, right? And heavy weapon wise, those are basically about 90 heavy weapons maximum, right? And then after they send it, minimum it's around 45, but I'm more confident in my 90x estimate. I think that's much closer to the actual number, even though I think it's possible it's only 45. Most likely it's 90 though. And after the US runs out of those 3.625 billion dollars worth of weapons, well, it's over then. The US will be out of stockpiles, and well, yes, the US will still have heavy weapons and stuff like that. They will still have weapons, but they will not send their advanced weapons to Ukraine. They just don't think it's worth it. For the entirety of the war, essentially, since for the entirety of the special military operation, the U.S. Basically has just been sending in old and dysfunctional heavy weapons to Ukraine from like the 60s and stuff like that, and the 70s, and those that were modern, like from the current day, they were just literally dysfunctional. They were broken, right? And so, and yeah, so NATO won't help with those crippling numbers of heavy weapons of Ukraine. Spain also has run out. Spain already ran out of heavy weapons in their stockpiles for Ukraine. They stopped sending heavy weapons for that reason. Germany also ran out of tanks to send for Ukraine. Um, and yeah, basically the NATO war machine is crippling too at this point. Running out of heavy weapons for Ukraine. They could, of course, send in their advanced weapons, but again, they won't do this. And this is the and because Ukraine isn't worth wasting their actual advanced heavy weapons on, right? And if they will be doing that, right, they like, and if they wanted to do that, right, they would have just been sending their advanced heavy weapons already, but they aren't, right, because it's not worth it, and they won't do it. They don't want that, right? But at the same time, I have to say, it's possible that they will start to force their allies like Japan and South Korea to send in their own dysfunctional and outdated heavy weapons to Ukraine. But again, this too will not prolong the war too much. I don't think so. But if we only include NATO heavy weapon exports, well, and adjust that to the rate at which Ukraine is losing its heavy weapons, which is basically 100 weekly, which is basically 100 weekly. Well, yeah, then the war will be pretty much over within about 5 weeks. It actually could end way faster if Ukraine actually launches more completely illogical offensives, such as the ones in Liman and Kherson and Zaporizhia, then the war will perhaps even end within 10 days. But again, I doubt that they will keep doing stuff like that, as, at least with the amount of heavy weapons that they're sending in for such offensives. It's just accelerating their own demise, right? I think they should try to waste their heavy weapons as little as possible, right? So they prolong their demise, but this is not what they're doing. They're accelerating it. Well, yeah. So I'm sticking to around 5 weeks. This is yeah. I'm sticking to 5 weeks. Well, and I think. If this is why we also, if Russia doesn't launch a larger scale offensive, if Russia launches no large scale offensive, such as with their 300,000 mobilized troops, then the war will end due to Ukraine running out of heavy weapons in 5 weeks. I think there is something. I'm doing this without script, as always. Um. There's something I think that I wanted to say else. Um, yeah, in the Harrison offensive, by the way, in which they lost 414 heavy weapons in the first week. That was actually the third biggest week in terms of Ukrainian heavy weapon losses throughout the entire special military operation. That's the end result of their stupid offensives like that, such as in Harrison Liman, and just self-deprivation of one's own heavy weapons. Well, but anyway, what I wanted to say is that it's possible that this will keep going like the Harrison offensive, which is a complete failure. I think it's possible that they will keep that Ukraine might capture a few more towns. Maybe they'll capture. I don't know. I haven't analyzed this too much yet, but I'm just saying they could capture more towns. I don't know which they will capture. Maybe it's Lysychansk, maybe it's Severodonetsk, maybe Gorskoye, maybe Popasnaya, maybe Petrovskoye, maybe what else do you have here? Maybe Volnohava. I think Volnavacha. Yeah, maybe that. Um, yeah, I think they might make some gains, make some more gains, like they did in Harrison, but really, like that won't really do much, right? Like even though they did some small gains at the cost of a massive loss of heavy weapons, in Harrison, right? Um, uh, that like gaining only a few towns wasn't worth the price that they had to pay for that. And even then the front just stalled, right? And and they did not really capture any significant cities. Like I can assure you one thing, Ukraine will not capture Donetsk, will not capture Luhansk, will not capture Mariupol, Gorlovka, Makeyevka, and so on. They won't capture that. They will only capture maybe some towns with a population of 10,000 maybe, for 30,000 if you are really optimistic as a support of Ukraine. Um, yeah, I think that this part of the Donbas map, as well as maybe this part as well, will be very interesting in the coming days. And maybe Pokrovska will be also pretty interesting. The Russians have actually not been pushed back in um, around the Bakhmut front. It's still going very strong in that direction, as well as here in the New York front. And Avdiivka is also going pretty fine right now. Yeah, but this wasn't this was quite some loss of land, but I think it's worth it. It's just accelerating. It's just Ukraine accelerating its own demise. Yeah, and then unlike Kherson, this front won't go stale. It will collapse for Ukraine. That will be pretty much. Yeah, I think this is very comparable to Kherson. Um, Especially if Ukraine keeps doing offensives like this. Like they will only capture towns like Lysychansk, Severodonetsk, Popasna, Gorovskoye, and Pokrovskoye and whatever, Zaitsev. They will only do that if they send in massive amounts of heavy weapons there, which we'll see if that will be the case. But yeah, things are going interestingly in Ukraine right now. Um, yeah, I think this was a quite long rant. I mean, I've had much longer ones. But again, this is very interesting developments. And yeah, the war is ending. And yeah, as I said, I give it 6 weeks. Maybe if, the US somehow gets, you know, if they somehow get Japan, South Korea, and their puppets like in West Africa, like Chad and Niger, to send heavy weapons to Ukraine, which we will see if that will even happen. Yeah, maybe it will end maybe in like 6 7 weeks, but yeah, I'm happy that the war is ending, and yeah, please don't over panic because of Liman. The Liman offensive actually benefits Russia. It's accelerating the wars, and the only reason why I don't consider the Kharkiv offensive to be a failure. Well, that's not the only one, but there are a lot of reasons for that. But I think that the biggest reason why it was not a failure, the Kharkiv offensive Ukraine, that is, it's because they didn't pay a big cost for it. They didn't lose much heavy weapons in conquering the Kharkiv Oblast, which includes Izium. Yeah, whereas that that doesn't apply to Liman and Harrison. Yeah. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great one. Goodbye.